What's going on, everybody? It's your boy RPG, and today we are back with another video. Today we're going to be doing something different than anything we've done on the channel thus far. This is not going to be a countdown video. This is not going to be a tier list, but more of a think piece. And if you haven't already put it together from the title, we're going to be talking about the demise of hip-hop. Where did hip-hop go wrong, and why is it in the state that it currently is in? Now, for those of you who enjoy the current state of hip hop and think it's as good as it's ever been, that is certainly perfectly okay as an opinion. But when we talk matters of fact, it is no longer an opinion that rap is failing. Just today, I seen Juicy J in the video talking about how rap sales are down 40% this year. And as of July, I think it changed, but it was the first time that half a year had gone by and there had been no number one rap single at all. So for you younger guys that, commented on my worst rapper video or talking about Lil Yachty and Nardo Wick and all these, monotone mumbling buffoons, like, you can like them, but it is no longer an opinion that rap is suffering and failing because of the direction that it went. Now, we're going to go over how it got there. Depending on your age, you might have a different era in mind than I do, and certainly it is subjective up until some point. A lot of older people who like the quote-unquote golden age of hip-hop of the late 80s into the mid-90s or so would probably pinpoint the bling era as where rap took a wrong turn, leaving more message-based sort of content behind in favor for braggadocio and flossing and flexing. The bling era for me kind of started with acts like Cash Money. I mean, the term bling is a creation of Lil Wayne. That word did not exist until the song Bling Bling came out. And you had Master P and things like that. And it transitioned into this sort of drug dealer, boss rap with Jay-Z. Then 50 Cent came along, and it's the era of flexing. It's the beginning of I have more money than you. I'm better than you, like at life in general, but and I rap better than you. But do you hear what I said there? In this era, not only do I think across the board was at the highest level of lyricism from top to bottom, there was a healthy middle class of rap, not this the very top 3-4 guys are good and then a bunch of mediocrity. But people cared about being good. People cared about being unique. They wanted to be the best. They cared about their craft, and then they bragged about the rewards that they got from being good at their craft. So if you want to say that the bling era of the late 90s to late 2000s is where rap got away from its roots, I would tend to agree with you, but I think it blossomed fully into its potential and realized this potential in this era. Could that solely be because this is the primary era that influenced me? Who knows? But I mean, if we're being realistic, most music that came out before 1995 and most music that came out post 2014 to me doesn't really stack up to that era. Like, if we're just talking about skill, hunger, diversity. So the time that I really first remember seeing this change of the guard and this idea that you don't have to be good at rapping to be a professional rapper probably was around 2010 or 11, with the internet really starting to pick up speed. And the first scene that I saw it in was drill music. Now, before I get into drill music, there are 3 or 4 parts to this, and drill music is not entirely to blame. And I want to preface this by saying that I am a fan of the early Chicago drill, the OG Chief Keef. I got put onto FBG Duck a bit later, But I liked Lil Reese. I liked Fredo back then. R.I.P. Um, G Herbo had some shit. Bibby, like they had music that I listened to at that time. Some of it I'll occasionally even go back and listen to now. But let's make no mistake about it. With the exception of maybe Herbo, nothing of that genre was ever like, oh my god, they can spit, right? But it was so like you knew these guys were serious, right? And so the authenticity of it is kind of what drew me in, and I think drew a lot of people in. And we know how serious they were because now that you look 10, 12 years later, the majority of them that didn't move out of Chicago are now dead or in prison. So it's a very captivating and simultaneously tragic uh, piece of hip hop history. But this is the first time where we started to see 15, 16-year-old kids recording videos at their house, uploading them to the internet, and them going viral. I mean, before that, I guess your first case of this was Soldier Boy, but Soldier Boy did not shape or move culture really. That era was still dominated by Lil Wayne primarily, people like Rick Ross, So drill is the first time where people realized they didn't need the gatekeepers of the music industry to go viral. And this is where, everybody started having a cell phone, everybody started having social media, and this is the era where everybody wanted to start being a rapper or thought that they were a rapper. This is the first era where social media following and sort of looking the part began to supersede actually being talented. Now, do I blame drill entirely? No. And as I stated, I like some early drill music. There is a next phase of this that also played a part in where we are now. Keep in mind, this has happened over 10 or 12 years. Drill is just, in my estimation, the first piece. The next phase of this comes maybe 2015, 2016 for sure, when we get into the SoundCloud rap era. This is the era that spawned the face tattoos, the colorful hair, the out of key singing, and inspired a whole new wave of people, I think, to try to do music. While drill inspired hood guys and guys who wanted to be hood, now with SoundCloud rap, you had a lane to talk about how fake sad you are, or how many drugs you do, or how weird and lonely you are. It had become in vogue to be an outcast, or at least portray the image of being. And this is the era where rap really began to lose its soul. It certainly lost all its originality. This is where you started to see every rapper have Lil in front of their name. I mean, you go Lil Xan, Lil Yachty, Lil Baby, Lil Skies. I mean, I could keep going. We're just doing this off the head. I'm not writing anymore. But and then it became, this is the era where sounding like everyone else became in vogue. And if you didn't do it in this one pocket, it wasn't what's up anymore. So now that we're 2016, 2017, into 2018, the internet is in full bloom. Social media is in full bloom. And technology has gotten to a point where someone can shoot a professional looking music video that looks better than what industry artists had, 10, 15 years prior, just on their porch with a bunch of dudes waving guns or sitting with a double cup in their room pretending to be sad. And then because you can shoot a professional looking music video for $300 to $500 now, you can then get on social media and just whore that out and convince dumb people with numbers that you are something viable. Most people, I would say 75% of people that I come across need to be told what they like. They like the popular thing, the thing that's getting the most play, the thing that everyone else is playing. And I've noticed the people that really are drawn to me over the years have been people that are able to make their own decisions and decide what they like for themselves. Not they don't like anything that's popular, but they don't like things just because the world likes them. But this is not about me, so this is the era though with SoundCloud rap where artist development really took a dive because of this. It's no longer like an Eminem would have a really hard time coming out today because he had no following when he was out. He was with Wendy Day, and but she wasn't the person she is now yet at that time, and she didn't know what to do with him, so she threw this battle rap event, and someone heard him from Interscope, A&R, which they're not doing a whole lot of that anymore, and they brought it to Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine played it to Dre. The rest is history. But make no mistake about it, like he didn't have this sort of, you know, well, the internet wasn't even around, but he didn't have a following at all. They made that happen just based around his skill set. So when we get into the SoundCloud rap era, that's where you start to see them stop with the artist development and start just dumping gas on an already lit fire. Now, I'm not here to knock anybody's hustle, but this is really where the emphasis on being good at making music stopped and the emphasis on growing awareness of yourself on the internet turned up, and people conflated social media influencing with being rappers. So when I say this is where rap began to lose its soul, it's not only that, but as I mentioned with the weird hair, the tattoos, the drugs, the references to drugs, all the songs beginning to sound the same, it was going down a path that rock and roll had already done 30 years prior. I mean, go look at a picture of Kurt Cobain with red hair, in an interview talking about how he has to do heroin to make his stomach stop feeling like he's being stabbed in it. So all the originality was gone. But you had a saving grace because there was this top tier of rap that was still propping it up, holding it up. And this is where we get to what I think has been the final nail in the coffin for the genre. And before we get into the demise of the top tier of the genre, I want to say that the SoundCloud and drill era really influenced so many copycats and so many people that see these people not really trying at music but just being successful by playing the internet game. And now that is being done in every city across America. And if you look at a place like where I'm from, there's two guys in particular. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name names, but they're quite a bit older than me. And they'll get the likes on their social media. They get the feedback within this virtual matrix of people that, want to be cool and accepted inside of this thing that isn't, I mean, it's real, but it's not. And so, they've done a good 10, 12 years of the social media whoring. And these two gentlemen have a song together. I'm not going to say what platform. I'm not going to say how long it's been out, but let's just say it's been out over a year. So people that are supposed to be quite popular in this area, I look, and the two of them combined, their audiences on a song that is over a year old has only generated around 50 or so total plays. So I go, well, what is all that for? And it becomes more about the image and, How many people can I have sex with? How many likes can I get on my post? How many people can I fool into thinking I'm doing this thing and not really living up to your job description? But enough about that. But that is the totality of what I see. For a 5%er like me, 95% of what's out there is people not working at the craft and playing a role because they've seen that be successful by people with more money than them or more connections than them. So now we get to present day, and I don't mean to pile on the person that I'm going to bring up in particular, but uh, there was a recent release from Drake, who to me was, along with a few others like Joyner Lucas, kind of holding up this upper class of hip hop. But Drake's last 3 to 6 years, we've seen him go from caring about being the best and being competitive and things like that to trying really desperately to hold on to relevance, particularly with the youth. And every rapper has their run and it ends. And he's certainly had the longest at the pinnacle, peak top. And he will never, he's his own entity now. It's like Eminem. Like, regardless of what's going on, he's amassed so many fans, me being one of them, that everybody's gonna at least check out what he puts out when he does put it out. But what once was his strongest asset, I think will now be the thing that leads to his demise, at least from the very apex position that he's been in for a decade and a half. Every rapper that's been there has had it for a different reason. If you look at Eminem, his downfall was he got away from the larger than life, crazy, off the wall aesthetic, and is still very lyrical, but has leaned almost too heavily into rhyming. It's so technical now that it doesn't make for a compelling listen outside of, wow, that's very technically sound. Lil Wayne was too insular and did not evolve really with the times. He didn't care about anything that was going on. And while I don't want people to think I hate all new rap, like there are pieces of it that I find viable and important. I just think, particularly with the new generation, the artists that were going to lead the way have already died in X, a Juice World, a Peep. But Lil Wayne did not retool his belt ever. And Drake, the reason he's been able to stay on so long is because of that constant retooling of the belt, experimenting with different sounds, doing this and doing that. But in an effort to constantly modernize and reshape, and I can't even call it keep up with the Joneses, kind of devolve with the Joneses at this point when you have Little Yachty and Yeet on your latest project, which to me, I mean, he's above that, to be frank. But, you know, he wants to appeal to the internet. And now that we've set that precedent and outlined what is popping on there, which is 90% just a bunch of bullshit, he now raps a bunch of bullshit and has gotten so far away from what made people love him that that is going to be his demise, is fucking around with his sound too much. So when you have all these people come out and show the youth that, okay, we didn't have to be good at rapping to be successful rappers. Now they all want to do that, and the art has become secondary to everything else we've talked about. And now we've finally gotten to a place where even the very top of the genre no longer cares about being the best. So if the best is no longer the best, and there's no one to pass the torch to because nobody gives a fuck anymore. That's why you see rap sales down 40% this year. That's why there was no number one single, no number one album for however many months into the year. And that's why rap is in the worst place it's ever been. And that's not really up for debate anymore. We have numbers to back it. So, where do we go from here? I don't know. I've certainly been trying to become at least a working musician, but I am not a big fan of the social aspect. I don't really like to talk to very many people, to be honest, these days. But, I try. I try at the craft. I'm going to give it a couple more years, and if it doesn't pan out, you're going to see me lean more into content like this because I'm not going to beat a dead horse and be a 40-year-old man still talking about one day. Um, it makes me sad to see where rap has gone. It was this thing that I loved and that helped me escape from a lot of my demons and stuff. And it started to make me garner attention from people I normally wouldn't interact with. And that's what it was. But that was never the reason I did it. It's not the reason I do it now. Some of you over the years that have constantly gave me your highest praises, you do keep the wind in my sails and keep me going. So don't ever think I don't appreciate you. But I just mean the fair weather fans and things like that. Um, but rap is a prime example of what happens when the world gets a hold of something that they don't really understand and they don't really appreciate, and they whore it out and make it this disformed blob, unrecognizable, bloated version of itself. So yeah, it's pretty sad. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know if it's gonna change. You see, rock and roll died when they went through their copycat bullshit sellout phase. So yeah, if I had to guess, rap is just gonna turn into this thing with this huge generational gulf where the mainstream stuff is all being made for people 13 to 20 years old who sit on their computer all day, and older folks will just listen to older music. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, it's your boy RPG. Peace.